The day I saw my dead husband buying groceries, my entire world shattered for the second time. 6 months earlier, I had buried Michael after what everyone told me was a terrible accident. I spent every day learning how to survive without the man I had loved for more than 4 decades. Then, while reaching for a jar of pasta sauce in a grocery store, I heard the familiar cough and grumble I knew better than my own heartbeat. When I turned around, there he was, alive, holding a shopping basket like nothing had happened. I called his name, expecting tears, relief, or at least recognition. Instead, he looked at me with complete confusion and calmly introduced himself as Daniel Carter. He insisted we had never met before. I showed him old photos of us together, pointed out the scar above his eyebrow and the crooked finger he had broken as a teenager. But he denied everything. Before walking away, he gently told me I must be going through something difficult. Everyone in the store looked at me like I had lost my mind, but deep inside, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The man I buried was standing right in front of me. Instead of going home, I secretly followed him. He drove to a quiet neighborhood where a woman welcomed him with a kiss on the cheek. 2 young children ran outside shouting "Grandpa" and jumped into his arms. I sat in my car watching the family laugh together while tears streamed down my face. The man I had mourned for 6 months was living an entirely different life. I took pictures of the house, the car, and his face because I knew no one would believe me without proof. That night I barely slept. The next morning, I called my son Ethan and told him I had seen his father alive. He assumed grief had finally broken me, but when I showed him the photos, his confidence disappeared. We returned to the house together, and the moment my husband walked outside, Ethan burst into tears. Before I even asked another question, I knew he had been hiding something from me. Ethan finally confessed that Michael had never died. More than 20 years earlier, he had started another family and secretly lived 2 separate lives. When he decided he wanted to leave me forever, he realized a divorce would cost him millions of dollars. Instead, he created a horrifying plan. Using a dying homeless man and fake documents, he staged his own death, held a closed casket funeral, transferred his money into hidden accounts, and disappeared under a new identity. Ethan admitted he had helped cover everything up because his father promised to leave him the business and fortune. While I cried over a grave that belonged to a stranger, they quietly erased me from their lives. For several days, I locked myself inside my house. Eventually, the heartbreak turned into determination. I hired a private investigator and an experienced attorney. Together, they uncovered fake identities, hidden bank accounts, forged documents, and millions of dollars secretly transferred before the staged death. Phone records proved my husband and son had remained in constant contact while I believed I was alone. The betrayal was no longer just personal, it was criminal. My lawyer advised me not to confront anyone until we had enough evidence. I invited Ethan to lunch pretending I wanted peace. During our conversation, I secretly recorded his confession as he explained every detail of the fraud. That recording, combined with the investigator reports, gave prosecutors everything they needed. Criminal charges were filed for identity fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and financial theft. Arrest warrants were issued within hours. Before the police arrived, I visited the small green house one final time. The woman living there answered the door, still believing she was with a widower. I calmly handed Michael the legal papers exposing his real identity. When I revealed that I had been his lawful wife for more than 40 years, the woman looked at him in complete shock. He begged me to listen, but I had nothing left to hear. Moments later, police cars surrounded the house, ending the life he had built on lies. A few weeks later, Michael died from a heart attack while waiting to stand trial. I felt neither joy nor sorrow because the man I loved had disappeared long before that day. The courts recovered the stolen assets, canceled his fake identity, and sentenced Ethan to prison for helping commit the fraud. When we finally spoke, I told him I still loved him as my son, but love could never erase the consequences of betrayal. Months later, I renovated my home, traveled with friends, and slowly rebuilt the life I thought had ended. I visited the cemetery one last time and stood before the grave where a stranger rested beneath my husband's name. I realized that the grave never held the man I loved. It held the innocent version of myself who believed loyalty guaranteed honesty. I walked away without looking back, knowing the greatest lesson of my life was that truth may arrive painfully late, but it always arrives. When it does, choosing yourself is the bravest decision you can ever make.